Chapter 83. Can this really go on, or will it end with a fright? I know it's wrong. Why does it feel so right? They're really good. What did you say they were called? Zebra, Agneta shouted over the loud, live music. She had brought 2 friends from Chalmers to the club where Kevin and the band played. No, I've seen them before, her other friend said. They're called Little Band. Yeah, they used to be called Little Band, Agneta clarified, half screaming. But they have changed their name and their style. They also changed singer a few times. Why are they called Zebra? Agneta pointed. She had red nail polish. She didn't used to wear nail polish, but after becoming Kevin's girlfriend, she did. Just like his mother. Because of Jenny's hair. The drummer thinks she looks like a zebra now that her hair is black with the blonde roots coming through. Zebra had a rockier repertoire than Little Band. It suited Jenny's new life. They finished I Love Rock and Roll and went on to play Good God, their cover of an Anouk song. Did you say the singer's name is Jenny? Agneta nodded. Is that the same girl who was with your boyfriend before? Agneta took a sip from her beer. She wondered why she had bought beer after participating in a beer swilling competition at Chalmers, where most of the beer had ended up in her nose. She had completely lost the taste for it. Yeah. Her friends looked at each other. Doesn't that feel strange? She shrugged and looked the other way. Is she together with a new guy now? Well, together is not really the right word, but she's often with him. She pointed to Diego, who was standing a few meters away with a glass of Coke in his hand. Diego didn't notice Agneta's pointing finger, even though he was standing rather close to her and her friends. His attention was focused on a couple of guys who had entered the club 10 minutes earlier. They belonged to Snakes, a so-called motorcycle gang. He didn't consider them a motorcycle gang since several of them could barely ride. It was a group of semi-shady guys who wanted Snakes to get the same reputation as Bandidos or Hells Angels. They were all idiots, and he kept an eye on them. They were clearly here to start a fight. They had already knocked over the beers of a couple of guys and poured at a chubby young girl. Diego had chosen to do nothing, for now. Jenny had wanted him to come and hear her band and hang out with her friends. It was a terrible idea. The only thing he had in common with them was that they knew Jenny. Otherwise, they had nothing to talk about, and it had become embarrassingly quiet several times when they had all met before the show. In any case, he didn't intend to start a fight during her gig. It was unnecessary. But it annoyed him enormously when he saw the boys behave as they did without anyone doing anything about it. The bouncer at the door had very deliberately turned his back. Maybe the club had a deal with Snakes? Pay us and we'll leave you alone? Pay us and we'll protect you from other motorcycle gangs? Diego knew these arrangements weren't uncommon. When the 2 Snakes guys walked towards the small stage where Jenny and the band were standing, he decided to follow them. There were limits to what he would allow, even on a night like this. Jenny sang and danced with lightning energy. It was the 3rd gig since she had come back to the band, and she liked the feeling of being on stage and throwing out rocky songs that grabbed both her and the audience. She saw a pair of big guys in leather jackets make their way to the stage in a way that upset the rest of the audience. They pushed themselves forward and even pushed away young girls who were close to the stage. Something was not quite right. In the next song, she leaned forward when singing. Suddenly, the 2 bastards were close to her, staring at her breasts. She was wearing a leather vest on top of a lace bra, just as Annie Lennox had done in one of the Eurythmics videos from the 80s. Now she wished she had worn something she could button all the way up. "Show us your tits!" they shouted, laughing with their mouths wide open. She moved away, but the stage was small and one of them grabbed her ankle. She was about to fall, but regained her balance the moment Diego put a fist in the ear of the guy who had grabbed her. The guy screamed, grabbed his ear, and went down on one knee. His friend got furious, was about to hit Diego when he suddenly stopped. The guy with the bleeding ear was back on his feet. His friend grabbed him by the arm. "Careful, it's Diego." The guy with the ear didn't listen. With his shoulders pulled up, he ran toward Diego, planning to headbutt him. Diego took a quick step to the side, pushed his attacker sideways so he crashed into a group of people. Some of them were already upset with a big oath, so they pushed him away and even kicked at him. His friend couldn't stand this, so he rushed into the group and started fighting. Within seconds, at least 10 people were involved in the fight, right in front of the stage. The club's bouncers could no longer ignore what was happening. They called the police and tried separating the fighters. Diego jumped on stage. "Time to go, Jay." She stared at the commotion but didn't move. "I can't just leave a gig." Angrily, he shook his head. "Jay, the show is over. Come on, damn it." When the stage light went out and the tube lights flooded the noisy crowd, she understood he was right. They ran to the dressing room to get her helmet and leather jacket before going out the back door. When they got out to the motorcycle, the police were already there, blocking the entrance and exit. "It's too late to leave, Diego. The police have..." "Get up!" He pushed her against the motorcycle. When they were both sitting on it with the engine started, one of the policemen came up to them. "Everyone who has been to the club needs to stay. Don't move." Diego disengaged the gear, put the bike on the stand. Jenny was relieved. For a moment she had thought he was going to drive away, right in front of the police. She knew he didn't want anything to do with the police, but in this case, he simply had no choice. Just as she was about to get off the bike, Diego squeezed her arms with his elbows, put in the gear again, and took off. The police officer, who had told them to stay put, turned around and ran towards them. Diego drove past him. When they were on the street, he was pleased. That had been easy. Then he saw that there was a motorcycle policeman there, who immediately chased after them. The traffic light ahead of them was red. 2 cars were waiting. He looked at the crossroads. The cars were about to drive but hadn't yet started. He had a short window of time. He drove up on the sidewalk, past the 2 waiting cars, and crossed the road just before the cars on the other road entered the intersection. He heard braking and a bang behind him. Without looking back, he continued at a high speed, turning into a one-way street. He met a car, but there was just enough space for the motorcycle to pass. By this time, the motorcycle police had stopped chasing them. Otherwise, he would have endangered the public. He had probably alerted other police, though, so Diego slowed down and chose smaller roads out of town. When he felt reasonably safe, he increased his speed and finally came out on the country road that led to the barracks. Jenny was shaking. When Diego had driven away, right in front of the police, she had screamed inside. She had been sure they would be stopped and that Diego would end up in prison, given all the other things the police already knew or thought they knew about him. She didn't know what would happen to her, but of course there would be some kind of consequence for being part of disobeying orders from the police. That they had been almost run over by the cars in the intersection had scared her as well. She knew how even minor accidents could have major consequences when he was sitting on a motorcycle. But now, almost half an hour after they had left the club and were halfway home, she felt the tremors subside as the relief washed over her. It was more than relief. It was a kick, a rush of happiness. They had looked both police and the death in the face and laughed. They had made it! She laughed out loud inside the helmet. We made it! Diego and she had run away from all kinds of hardships. They were free and on their way home. Of course she knew it was wrong, but still, it felt oh so right. The next morning, Jenny woke up with a pale but eager April sun shining on her face as she lay next to Diego in the narrow bed. She turned around and gave him a kiss. Then they heard the sound of a motorcycle. Diego sat up and looked out with a frown. Oh shit! He got up and put on a pair of underpants and a t-shirt. The motorcyclist banged on the door. Take it easy, Angus, I'm coming. What the hell's going on? We were supposed to meet a fucking hour ago. Angus opened the door and came inside. He glanced at Jenny as she lay under the covers. Oh damn it, Diego, I've been waiting a fucking eternity for you and here you're fucking some broad. Diego, now wearing a pair of jeans, pushed Angus against the wall, pressing his throat. This is not some broad, this is Jenny, my girl, and if you don't treat her with respect, I will feed you with your own fucking balls, you bastard. Hell, calm down, how was I to know? I'm sorry, okay, I'm sorry. Diego released Angus, who coughed and held his throat. Go, I'm coming. But I'll come when I'm ready. Now go. Angus, still holding his throat, went out of the barracks. I forgot, I have a thing I must do, so... Diego fell silent when he saw Jenny look at him with a strange expression on her face. I'm your girl? He suddenly looked completely lost. He looked down at the floor, up at the ceiling, and then down again. He bit his lip. Well, yeah, you are, aren't you? The seconds before she answered lasted several eternities. She looked as if she was thinking about it, analyzing it. Yeah, I guess I am. Diego looked at her with more joy than she had ever seen in his eyes.